Okay, we're live.
Okay, then welcome everyone on the 2019 November 20 Node.js Diagnostic Working Group meeting. Please put your name to the attendees in the meantime. And I think there are two items on which is not really in this document that we should discuss. One is that Girish made a kind of a pool that we should move this meeting to another time because it doesn't really work for lots of people. We didn't get many responses back, but most of the people who responded are here. So is there anything that works for absolutely anyone? No, there is no such an overlap.
That would be too easy.
Yeah. Okay, I see this 7:30 to 8:30 which is the closest to Gerard. So maybe we can ask him if that can work for him.
And that's, you're seeing it in which time zone?
Oh yeah, I see it in my time. Yes.
So that's 10:30. Yeah. Okay. So that's. But.
Yeah. Okay. So it's 10:30 in Canada, right?
It's 10:30 in Eastern.
Mm-hmm. Any chance that the next slot could work for you as well? Because to be honest, the 7:30 will be a little bit stretch for people here, I believe.
Let me look. I think it probably overlaps with other things is the problem for me.
I can make it, but I am 100% sure that most of the people don't want to have a meeting.
I can agree with that. So 11:30 on Wednesday. So 10:30, 11. The half hour also makes, but that'd be 10:30, 11:30. Yeah, I think I pretty much have like a conflict every week. Although I potentially, that might be an excuse to get out of that conflict.
I know that Gerhard is in Asia somewhere.
Yeah, I think 11:30. I'd probably miss some, but that's probably okay.
Oh, I see why he wants an earlier time slot. Okay.
Oh, they want to. Okay.
I mean, I don't know if he's in Tokyo, but like, yeah, that's middle of the night. Okay, then I will ping everyone again on the issue because it doesn't look like we have something which works for everyone.
Yeah, we might even consider a different day.
Yeah.
The other option is just 2 time slots, which we've done in a lot of cases.
How does that work? You have 2 meetings or?
Well, we alternate between the 2 time slots. So every other time somebody won't be able to come, but if you've got things where it's like 12 midnight for one person and 12 a.m. for the other, that's potentially the only option you have.
Okay, I think that can be a good trade-off because if someone is in Asia and North America and Europe, it kind of will never work. Like,
yeah, well, exactly.
No,
right, and that like, so for the package maintenance one, we have one at 9:30 Eastern. Most of the people in Pacific can't make that because it's 6:30, but then we have another one at 3 in the afternoon, so they mostly make that, and there's some overlap, so it gives you some continuity too.
Okay. That was one topic which wasn't on the agenda, but I think it was to discuss. Another one is there will be the Node Interactive in Canada. And I know that Girish will have a presentation, and I kind of talked with him about that. His presentation will be a little bit about how the working group is working, what kind of the working group is achieving, what problems it solves, so kind of trying to recruit more people for the working group. And he was asking if we want to propose a session, because I think there would be also opportunity for that. I won't be there, but is there any topic which is so burning that we should bring it to the Collaborator Summit?
I guess it depends on, yeah, nothing comes to my mind, but if there was a topic that somebody who's going to be there wanted to, like, you know, have a real-time dialogue on, it would make sense.
Okay, maybe we can create an issue and CC the working group people.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay. Then we arrived at the two running topic, which basically it's almost the same. So like a month ago, kind of, we had started to have a deep dive on the process crash.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of identified in what kind of use cases it can happen and why. And we discussed that in a second part, we will focus more on the available tooling and what we would like to achieve in the future around tooling. But then on the second one, only Girish and me was, so we didn't really make a progress on that. That's one related. And another related is...
was that last week?
2 weeks ago. No, 2 weeks ago I couldn't make it, and that was 4 weeks ago.
Okay.
Which is kind of related that I opened pull request, which I'm waiting for more reviews. I have one review on each of them. And basically what I did, I just started to copy the user journey content to the structure, what Michael and Girish created. It's kind of just filling up the content of those documents. So some review would be welcomed on that.
Okay. Yeah, somehow I missed getting notifications. I must have got them, but anyway, I didn't know they were waiting, so I'll go take a look.
Okay. Okay. Do you want to discuss in the remaining time, kind of continuing the deep dive? Would it make sense?
I unfortunately have to leave at the half hour, but happy to do it until then.
In half an hour?
Well, no, I have to leave at 2, so 14
Okay.
minutes from now.
Okay. Yeah, I think even if we just pick a small part and we make progress on that, that's progress.
Sounds good.
Okay. So we kind of collected the use cases, so now it's time to collect the tools and what you can do with those tools. I started to put to-do about, I don't know if you see what I highlighted, how we use mostly code dumps. I mean, it's a to-do, but basically,
yep,
this is what we do. What other tools are? There is the diagnostic report.
Mm-hmm.
I am not really familiar, to be honest, with how to use diagnostic report. I mean, like what a workflow.
Yep. There's actually at NodeConf EU, Jarish did a good workshop on that covers a few of the different use cases.
Mm-hmm.
We can possibly pull some of it from there.
Okay. Was it like a recorded talk or slides or like?
It was a workshop, so there's actually like you know, sample code you can use and run and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So it's a GitHub repo. He'll have, I don't have the link handy, but we could paste that in as a starting point for some.
Okay.
The other tool that I don't know if is there is the heap profiler.
Okay. This is the heap snapshot.
No, it's actually a profiler. Like there's heap. So it's a tool that you can install that'll take samples of heap allocations. Kind of like the
oh, the heap sampling. Yeah, there is a heap sampling and not sampling.
Right, sampling, yeah. And then heap dumps as well if they're not already in the report in the list.
Yeah, I think the heap dumps which Chrome calls heap snapshot.
Okay. / snapshot, yeah.
Okay.
Somewhere flame graphs are probably in there.
I don't think flame graphs are for process crashes.
Oh yeah, okay. So I wasn't thinking if these are specific to that one.
That's a good point. Is even heap sampling profiler
no, like
snapshot?
No, those two don't belong there. They'll belong with one of the other ones.
We mentioned trace events, but is there any tool which is really using trace events, crash related? I don't think so.
Node.js uses, I think.
Sorry,
I'm not sure though.
Which tool did you mention?
Node Clinic from Nearfarm.
But can you run Node Clinic? I mean, locally you can, right?
Yes, you can't use it on production, but you can on development.
Okay.
I think trace events also, not that we have everything we need, but you know, in a place they can help you with if we have the right trace points is having something which is always on and generates a like a ring buffer, so you can, when you crash, you could see the last 10 trace events or 100 trace events or something like that. That'd be useful. So it's worth having it there, even if we can't do it today, because it might be, and we should work on something like that.
Yeah, trace events are supposed to be production safe and performant. I'm not sure if anyone is using it on production right now, but they're supposed to be.
And it's usually some subset, like you don't turn on every trace point, but there should be some subset that you can turn on that you just want all the time. I don't think we're at the point where we have a good set that we would say just turn these ones on, but it's worth thinking about when we have time.
Okay. I think I don't remember, Matthias, that you were here when we collected these. But what about the native tracing points, or is it the same than trace events? No, right?
No, it's not the same. I don't think it's worth mentioning right now. Also, I'm not sure if it's a good tool for process crashes.
Okay.
It's more for performance analysis and abnormal behavior analysis.
Okay.
You're talking about like the Linux tracing,
yes,
kernel tracing, that kind of stuff, right? Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
I do wonder, should we be talking about things like GDB or the native debuggers?
We talk about LL nodes, so maybe it makes sense.
Okay.
But GDB is not able to understand JavaScript code.
Right.
or JavaScript object layouts.
I mean, maybe it's just in the context of LL node with one of the debuggers.
Yeah, LL node can be used to understand native crashes and native code as well, since it's built on top of LLDB. People usually are more familiar with GDB though, so maybe it's worth mentioning.
Yeah, possibly as instead of using that, which you know about, here's the one that we'd recommend because it does these extra things for you.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I started to do in the meantime that I think it would make sense if we would kind of on a high level, we would describe what you do with these tools, because that would have to identify the gaps and kind of think about what would be the feature.
Should we throw in Valgrind as well?
Valgrind?
I know that often that's used for memory, but I think it can also report like double freeze and that kind of stuff.
Actually, I don't know what is that tool.
It basically runs your code under some sort of emulation, and it'll report at the end if you've, like, for example, it'll tell you whether you've allocated and not freed memory. Gives you a summary at the end. But the other thing it does also tell you about is if like you're double freeing pointers, which could be the result, could, you know, be one of the reasons you get a crash.
You can edit. Let me link this document in the chat because I'm not sure I get the name of the technology.
Sure. Yeah, I can paste it in.
Where should I add it?
You can add it to the use cases, which is basically these notes are the use cases.
I'm just looking for where.
So under the current tool with gaps and user.
Right. Okay. I'm just current. Right. Okay. Right, Valgrind, yeah, that's the right one.
Okay, how about if we work out the code dump user journeys today?
Makes sense.
Okay, so I copy pasted from the previous meeting that we identified that you can inspect the heap, you can find the stack trace caused the crash, inspect original stack trace from error, and you can inspect the error properties like use cases that you want to do with code dumps. If you're happy with the use cases, I copy pasted them here. And I kind of, the setup section, I know Girish has a great document it's already merged to, I believe, your node master. So I just leave it like floating here. Let's start with an inspect the heap.
So are these crashes native crashes or crashes including like unhandled exceptions and stuff like that?
That's an excellent question. I think these are JS crashes.
It can be either native crashes or JavaScript crashes.
Okay, because that expands it.
Okay. So probably the last two only make sense for JS code, right?
Right. The other one too is diagnostic report does fit into those because it's got. Because the heap, I guess, or does this one include like a out of memory inspect the heap?
Kind of, yes. Yeah. You can see the number of objects by type and how much memory each type is consuming. So you can use that to detect
Right.
What caused a out of memory error, for example.
I'm just looking. I'm looking at the first section. It says setup. Download the core dump to local machine. That it doesn't actually apply to a number of these. Like if it's a pure JavaScript crash, I guess you can get a core dump, but you didn't necessarily have to, right?
Yeah. So what you point out is an excellent question. That the structure, what was in my mind, my head now, is kind of describing for every tool the use cases that they can solve. Then we can see what are the similarities and the gaps. Another way could be that we grab for example, one thing like inspecting the heap, and we describe it for every tools. We can go either way.
Yeah, I was thinking like it would be I got this kind of error. So I say I got I got an unhandled exception because I was out of memory. What would I do in terms of the order of, which order of the tools would I look at?
Okay, we can go that way as well.
And then it maybe makes sense to have like a more detailed section. Like, I don't know, depends how long the stuff is, but if there's a lot of commonality, then to try and just point to somewhere else. But
okay. Okay.
Unfortunately, that's my time, so I'll leave you guys to continue on. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay. Talk to you later.
Have a good one. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, Rish is there if you can promote, or I'll promote him, and then I'm going to make you the host again.
Hi.
Hi, Girish. So what you weren't promoted, it means that you heard what he was saying, just you couldn't say anything?
I was able to hear you. I was waiting for last 5 minutes or so.
Yeah, sorry, we didn't see it.
No problem.
Do you have any comment about the last 5 minutes that you want to share?
No, I think looks good so far. The only comment on the crash part would be, I think we would like to cover both the scenarios, that is the abnormal termination as well as native crashes that happen in the C++ land as well. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so basically we decided that we will grab a use case and we will fulfill it with every tools how to solve it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, then let's pick one. Let's pick with this one because it's I feel it's an easier one. So probably it's a good to start. Okay, so memory leak crashes the process when it runs out of memory. So you can use, let's see the tools. So diagnostic report. So we heard that you are expert on the diagnostic report. What would be the user journey with diagnostic report? Like, what would you do to kind of root cause this issue? No one.
I'm just thinking.
Okay. What's the recommendation? Would you save the report to a file or would you print it to the console? Or both?
So the report has 2 sections which are valid for the memory leak. One is the JavaScript call stack that is captured at the point of when the report was taken. That would potentially point to the location in the source where the allocation is happening, which is faulty potentially. Second one is the section that shows the statistics of the JavaScript heap, basically the allocation and the usage, the free space, etc. in the 5 different areas within the JavaScript heap. So the old space, the new space, the code space, and things like that. One of these will clearly show that ever-growing pattern of memory. So that should show the first symptom of memory leak.
Okay. Which one is the, what do you think? Which one provides? So just in a user journey, I would like to have a kind of order of operations. So you mentioned that there are 2 ways to use the diagnostic report. What do you think? Which one gives the better chance that the user will find? So what we recommend that this is the first step and another one is the second step.
Yeah, the first symptom would be the ever-growing old space.
So you would start to look in the diagnostic report, the allocation part first, and after the stack trace. That's what you're saying?
Yes.
Or?
Yes.
Okay. And look for the. What was that you mentioned? What was the name of the allocation?
Old space.
Old space. Maybe it's worth putting the diagnostic report just to remind. How does it look like?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you have the total size and the committed memory, which could be a subset of the actual memory size. But what is key is used and available. So in this case, you have a little bit available. So that means it still can allocate memory.
So basically the used is very large and the available is really low. That's
that's right. Yeah. So the lab which we ran last week in the NodeConf view, we had a specific use case where we get the memory leak leading to memory exhaustion, and we clearly see that the available space, available value in the old space is 0.
Okay, cool. Yeah, Michael mentioned that you made that workshop.
Yeah.
And probably that workshop has a lot of content that we can use here.
Yeah.
Okay. So if old space doesn't help, then look for, was this stack trace? Native stack or JavaScript stack?
I would look at JavaScript stack.
And do we expect the out of memory message or different symptoms?
Sorry, if the old space doesn't give a hint, no. I meant if old space is able to provide a confidence level that, okay, memory leak is indeed happening.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah, then it makes sense to look at the JavaScript stack to see what is the allocation pattern and what is the source line which is causing to this particular pattern. But
okay, makes a lot more sense. Thanks for the correction.
yeah.
Okay.
The JavaScript stack doesn't give you the allocation pattern. It only gives you where the application crashed. So if, for example, we are leaking on a previous call and our current allocation, which is not leaking, it's something that is allocated and then freed later. If that second spot is where the application is crashing, we'll be looking at the JavaScript stack that is not related to the actual crash.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the memory exhaustion, which is a culmination of a lot of memory leak in the past, if that is the scenario we are talking about, then yes, the call stack would not truly represent the problem. Instead, it would represent only the victim, which piece of code actually finally caused the exhaustion to happen. But if you are able to detect the pattern early, like a memory leak has been observed through a diagnostic report or whatever monitoring means, then probably capturing the report when the allocation is happening may show up one of these leaking patterns. May not be 100% accurate, but there are chances that the report is showing the leaking pattern. But
Yeah,
I agree.
It can, I agree it can show. I was just worried about writing it as it will show.
Mhm.
So instead of to see the allocation pattern, to see the victim of the memory leak, which can be the allocation pattern.
I'm sorry, can you please repeat the question?
No, I was just worried about writing it on the document as if the JavaScript stack will always show the place where the memory is leaking. So I just suggested we rewrite it in a way that doesn't suggest that.
Okay.
Which can.
Yeah, in high level, I agree, because if you look at the memory exhaustion, we don't generally see the stack trace. V8 doesn't provide you a stack trace. That's because it doesn't make sense to show the call stack at that point in time, because the current call stack doesn't make sense at all. The exhaustion is basically a result of a lot of bad things in the past.
Okay. So imagine that we look the odd space. We kind of have a high confidence that we have a memory leak that caused the crash. We look to the JavaScript stack and we were unlucky. What would be the next step to identify what's causing the memory leak? Or we would now point to the memory leak use cases and that's it?
We could have other scenarios like native memory leak. I exactly have no customer experience with that, but on and off I see from the issues in the core repo itself about the buffers and shared buffers, etc., which have native backends potentially causing memory leak. They not necessarily show up as a pattern in the JavaScript heap, but I don't know which tool or which section in the report is going to show that up.
Okay.
Basically, memory leak in the C++.
Yep. Yeah, I don't really know how to do that, to be honest. I will just put a placeholder here. Do you know, Mateusz, that with code dump, or how would you find native memory leak?
It depends a lot on the environment you are running. For example, if you are running on development, you can use Valgrind that Michael suggested before. Valgrind will show you a report of allocated spaces that were not freed. And this will basically give you the allocation patterns that are causing problems on native code. For
sorry, go ahead.
For production, it's a bit more tricky because most of the tools you can use will introduce some overhead. Also, they are more system specific. So, for example, a tool that will work on Linux will probably not work on Windows or on FreeBSD, for example. For Linux, you can use BPF with BPF trace, for example, and trace mallocs and frees. But since those calls will be frequent, you still have some overhead. But again, you get the memory allocation patterns. So if you run it only for a small amount of time, it might be feasible to do that in production.
Okay. I would suggest now to work with something which is more popular and we know how to use it.
Yep.
Like we could do the same JS memory leak with code dump. Mateusz, do you want to talk about this? You are the expert of.
So if you have a memory leak and you're using node to debug that, you probably want you probably want to run v8 find.js objects. This will give you a list of the objects with a number of allocations per type, as well as the size. And you usually will see a pattern on the objects that are most used, except for string and bare JavaScript objects.
At that point, you are kind of guessing, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I guess it's maybe
so for example, if a class tool is using a lot of memory, you can use find refs. To find the references to this object. And with that, you might be able to find where in the code it's being allocated. Since LL node doesn't give you the exact place where this is being allocated, you probably will need to search the code base for places where this instantiation is happening, which might not be that trivial if the object is passing around before being instantiated, for example. But in several cases, it will be enough to find the cause of a memory leak.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, if you don't find it, then kind of you have to switch to the memory.
Yeah, if you can't find with these steps, you can try to dig deeper in the core dump, or you can enable the sampling heap profiler.
Okay. Yeah, I guess all the tools what we looked is kind of, I think, fair to say that it's easy to tell that you have a memory leak and why process crashed, but it's not so easy to find why.
Yes.
Because you have to be kind of lucky with both the diagnostic report and the LL node.
I wouldn't say lucky. Maybe lucky, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I'm not familiar with the var grind. What would be the flow there?
Yeah, I don't remember the flow.
Okay.
I usually just Google how to use Valgrind because it's not a tool I use frequently. But basically, you call, instead of calling node script, you call Valgrind node script. And when the process crashes, Valgrind will give you a fairly detailed report, which requires some understanding to interpret. That's not a tool that I expect JavaScript developers to need to use, to be honest.
Okay.
This will be, for example, if you are developing a native module, you have a crash on that native module, then you might want to use the Valgrind tool, or if you are working on Node Core, for example. But in other cases, it's probably not going to be necessary.
Okay. Do you want to talk about the BPF traces, or that's too specific?
I think it's basically the same as the Valgrind story. It will not be used by JS developers. It will be used by mostly system engineers trying to detect a memory leak on a production server.
Okay. Is there anything that we are missing under the memory leak crash use case?
I think it's worth mentioning the heap profile.
But you can't really have a heap profile when you crash, right?
Oh yes, if you crash because of a out of memory, the profile will not be written to disk. Yeah. That's true.
I mean, we will have a complete deep dive on just memory patterns. And I think that's where these tools will fit. But this is specifically about crash.
Yes.
Okay, then maybe that's around memory-related crashes.
I think that's it, yeah.
Okay. We kind of have 5 minutes, so to be honest, I wouldn't jump into another one. Is there anything we should discuss?
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, probably you guys would have discussed in the beginning of the meeting, but just wanted to quickly touch base on two things. One is I set up a doodle for a new time proposal, expecting that that would work for majority of the folks. But looking at the minutes, I see there is no acceptable time slot that was identified. Is that the right assumption?
Well, looking the doodle, it looks like that to me, that there is no single one that's overlapping. And I think we discussed a kind of really hard that now there are people in Europe, Asia, and the US. So Michael proposed that other working groups has alternative times, and like one working group is in this time, another one is, I mean, like every second week it's changing kind of between the two. That could be an alternative, or we are trying to ask people who are really off. Like in this case, as I see, is Gerard the one who is kind of a little bit off from the other preferences. So we could ask him if what is his time zone, why, if he can stretch on that, or we can have this alternative solution. That was the outcome. I don't know how you think about this.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
We also kind of discussed that this 7:30 California time, it's like, I can make it, but like probably we will lose a lot of people because that's the time when people are on the shuttles, like kind of waking up. So, so it's not optimal.
Okay. Yeah, I guess two slots may be more appropriate so that people can choose. Yeah.
Okay, and another topic which we discussed at the Collaborators Summit.
Yes.
One that you will give this talk about the Diagnostic Working Group work and trying to make people excited. And that you also mentioned that maybe there is an opportunity for a session. And you kind of didn't have anything in our mind to bring it to the session. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so I have proposed one. I don't remember the number, but I believe I tagged the Diagnostic Working Group, but then later I remembered that the summit proposal is not on the Node.js organization, so the tagging does not really work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open a GH issue in this repo, linking to that proposal, and basically asking for feedback, or if you want to propose another session with wider content and things like that, that's also perfectly fine. From my perspective, I just want to collect suggestions, opinions, and feedbacks on the yes, this is precisely that. So yeah, so what was discussed? Are we proposing other sessions, or are we feeding into this one? Matthias, are you going to make it to the Club Summit?
No, I'm not gonna make it to Node.js Interactive this time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, then I guess I mean, providing suggestions and proposing amendments to this content, and I and Michael taking it to the collab summit seems to be the appropriate way out.
I mean, this session makes sense to me, to be honest.
Okay.
It's like one thing that I really would love to discuss with people that I think nobody, I mean, there wasn't really conversation around having the Diagnostics Summit next year. And I think there should be one. And we are happy to host at Netflix, just is always a problem that people doesn't want to travel too much.
Yeah.
And I don't think there will be any conference not related in California that I know about it. But maybe an alternative could be that we discussed in the company that we have other offices.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how big those offices are. So I definitely need to ask them, but maybe there could be one in Amsterdam or somewhere in Europe. It's closer for most of the people. But it's like, I think it would be great if you could poke on the Collaborators Summit, just that people are interested in a 2020 2 days Diagnostics Summit and they are willing to make it. And would be the preference more North America or Europe?
Sure. I will keep that in mind. I'll probably add a slide for that as well. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
One of the other thing that probably happened between this session proposal and today is that the NodeConf EU lab on the diagnostic report, a majority of the folks who have been using the report wanted to know, can we use it in production? They really wanted to use it in production. So definitely there is no performance overhead because once you enable this in the production, there is absolutely nothing happening in the background. Only when the report is being generated, a trigger is being put and some additional activities happening only at that site. But unlike profiling and all, there is no recurring overhead. So they really want to use it. But given that it's experimental, I'm thinking, should we propose or seek the feedback from the wider collaborators about making this stable? Or if we are proposing or if we are collecting the feedback on the Diagnostic Summit in 2020, early 2020, should we have that discussion in the Diagnostic Summit? I'm just thinking aloud. I think if summit is happening, that would be the right venue for discussing that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know the answer because we don't know if it's happening or not. I hope it's happening because it's usually much more useful than a collaborator summit where it's only 1-2 sessions.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't think you wanted to say something about moving the diagnosis report out of experimental should be only on the summit. It could probably be discussed on GitHub.
Mm-hmm.
I think there is even an issue about that on NodeCore.
Yeah, there is an issue opened already. Yes. Yeah, but
okay.
But yes, this is a good topic to talk on the on either summit, either the next one or the Diagnostics next year.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the TLDR is that none of us has a really urgent topic to discuss. So either could be just a general, like grouping together around diagnostic and like the working group and the session and the summit and the future of these whole things. Or if you have a topic around the diagnostic report, I think that's also a good one. I don't think anyone else has a urgent topic to bring to the collaborators. And so it's up to you, basically.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Okay. One thing that I forgot at the meeting, at the beginning of the meeting, and I'm really sorry that Adam, I see you are in the call, and personally, I don't really know you. So do you want a little bit talk about yourself, what you're doing, and why you're interested in the Diagnostic Working Group?
Yes, of course. Hi, my name's Adam. I work for AppSignal. We're an APM provider based in Amsterdam. We have been providing a APM for Ruby and Elixir up to recently, and they've hired me in to do a Node.js integration. So we are working on that as we speak. A little bit about our use case is that we have a agent that we talk to. The agent is built in Rust, and we communicate with it over the C bindings. We have just kind of done a proof of concept and had to make a few API changes, but now we're kind of we're in a good place, I would say. And really, what this is about is just I saw on Twitter that the async hooks spec could use some help move on to the next stage, and I'm just here to say I would like to help move that along if possible, and any other help that's needed as well, I would gladly offer as well. We like to contribute back to the language and the spec wherever possible, so this would be no exception.
Okay, awesome. That sounds great. To be honest, I think the whole Node.js community and working group, how it works is really like picking up things. So it's like there is no like task assigning and like the whole project management behind it. It's really kind of you pick up things that you're interested in. Okay. So if you're interested in async hooks, then there were definitely lots of history around that, and different people try to pick it up. I'm not sure about the current state and problems exactly, but I can point to the people who know that probably.
Okay.
Yep. So, yep. Let me know if you need any information about that or like.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. Yeah. What would be your preferred way to kind of communicate via GitHub or?
So as a start, yeah. So as a start, I would recommend we have the issue, I think, in both in the Node core and in the Diagnostic repo around async hooks. So as a beginning, I would just say like kind of hi there that you want to work on this and you are willing to work and like that you are looking for context. And hopefully people who were involved will share their historical context. If not, then we can set up more like a call or like invite those people into the next working group meeting, like kind of figuring out a more personal touch. Yeah, that would be my approach.
Okay, cool. I'll start there. And that would be on the issue in Node core, right?
No, I think it would be on the issue on the diagnostics repository.
Okay.
Do we have a link to this any chance? I know we removed from the agenda like a couple of weeks ago.
I can find it. Let me see.
Oh, I'm looking at the summit repo.
Yeah, I just posted it in chat there.
Yeah, just removed it from the agenda a couple of weeks ago. No, it was mentioned too. Okay. We already Is that you? Oh
Yes,
yeah, it's you. So I see you already made it. I mean, did it and didn't get much context out of it. Okay, then maybe let's start, continue the conversation here in the issues. I don't really have a context, so
Okay.
I can't say anything smart now. Yeah, but looks like we need to find those people who can fill you with the context, right?
Okay, that's good. Let's
Okay.
start. Then I will follow up with you guys in an issue about
Okay.
trying to get more context about how that works. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone, and see you in 2 weeks. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.